Hello everyone. Today we are going to interview Dr. Marcio Resende. He's an assistant professor at the University of Florida. Tell us about your professional background.
So I'm originally from Brazil, and my undergrad was in forestry engineering. So I actually started working with forestries and did a master's. I was fascinated by genetics. I did a master's in genetics and breeding, still aiming at forestry tree breeding. Came to US to do a PhD in genetics and genomics in the forest genomics program here at the University of Florida. Went on to actually co-found and work on a biotechnology and genotyping company, and recently joined the University of Florida in the Department of Horticultural Science, working with corn breeding.
That is really interesting. So how did your career path take you towards the job in your company that you founded?
I sometimes ask the question, and I don't really know why I was always so interested in entrepreneurship. My parents actually always had jobs in the government, very stable jobs, and I was always interested by creating my own company. And at one point, the availability of genotyping tools in the forest sector was not very high. There weren't very many tools available. So I decided that, without really knowing what to do and what it would take, I decided that I wanted to open a startup to offer genotyping services for tree breeders at the time, and partnered with some very smart people. And we started with the goal of offering genotyping to the tree breeding community, and that quickly expanded to a company that now genotypes over 1,000 different species and so on. So
Yeah, that is really true. We also use your company to genotype most of our stuff in the lab. But then what made you decide on changing your career path to academia?
I graduated and I worked at Rapid Genomics for about 3 years. And as a CEO of the business, most of what I would do were business related, sales related tasks, and manage the company. But it got to a point that my day, I was managing very smart researchers, but I was doing very little research myself. And at the same time, I always wanted to be involved with all the steps of a breeding program, and not only the genotyping of it. So when the opportunity came here at the University of Florida, I thought it would be professionally, it would fulfill many of my research interests to come back to academia and have the opportunity to be involved in the breeding program and also do a little bit more research.
Can you describe a typical day in academia?
So I just started about 6 months ago, and I'm actually still learning, and I'm quite surprised by how many meetings I have every day and how little time actually during the day I have to work on other things that I thought I would have time to. This semester I'm teaching several classes because in the spring I'm going to spend most of the time in the field. So my day so far has been dedicated to preparing classes, to lecturing classes, and then meet with students and with potential collaborators here at UF while I'm still getting to know a lot of my colleagues, and so I'm spending a lot of time on that. And also grant writing is the other part that's important. There are two components that I really enjoy. One is the ability to be involved in the breeding program, to actually have plants in the field and see the outcome of our selections and see actually whatever we can do to develop new varieties. And definitely one component that I always enjoyed is being involved in the training and collaborating with young students, and they're basically PhD students. They're bright and thinking about new ideas, and I definitely enjoy being part of this process.
How do you see this job changing in the next 10 years?
Conceptually, I think plant breeding will always exist. I think there will be plant breeders in 10 years, and I think the goal of developing new varieties will still be there. Likely the tools in the breeder's toolbox will be different. So what we can do, probably the way we're going to accomplish some of the tasks to advance new varieties in 10 years will be different than what we do today. That being said, I don't foresee traditional breeding in the sense of field breeding in quantitative genetics. I don't see that being replaced in 10 years, but I think new tools are actually, such as high throughput phenotyping, gene editing, those are going to start complementing everything we do.
So what do you think are the skills that are most important for a position in your field?
I think some of the skills that are important, first of all, is you need to like what you're doing. So, for example, in a position like mine, there's a lot of field work, there's lab work, there's teaching. And I definitely enjoy doing all of that. And that's something that needs to be present for someone that wants to follow a position like that. But besides that, I also think that creativity is a skill that can be trained, and I think it can be improved in anyone. And I definitely think it's a very valuable skill to have in a research setting, to be always thinking about new ideas, thinking about how to incorporate new tools to your program, to your research program. So creativity is definitely one that I would suggest as an important skill. And definitely the other one is teamwork, the ability to work in groups, the ability to advance science, whether in industry or academia, is usually built as a team, and you bring collaborations, and so that's a skill that can also be developed.
What else would you recommend to graduate students?
Similar to the message I gave about the skills, I think it's finding a field that you're absolutely happy working with, and if you do so, it's a lot easier to dedicate your work on, and to basically you see joy when you come to work. You're going to be happy doing so. Developing networking is as important, in my opinion, as the publication and developing your CV side of it. Getting to know as many people in the field as you can, having their contact, collaborating with them, and in my opinion, also really training yourself to work well in groups. That will definitely help you in any decision you make in the future in this field.